Hello viewers, Science Insight have brought you another interesting video to help you understand basics of biology in human particularly. Before going into details, don't forget to subscribe our channel and like our video, and of course do comment so that we will know what would you like to see in future. You must be familiar with the digestive system or you have read about it many times in your life, or there must be some confusion in some corner of your mind. So let's begin our journey through the digestive system and understand how different organs are working inside the digestive system, and they are breaking down the food and providing you the desired nutrients and energy. Basically, digestive system is very complicated but a delicate process which work very efficiently to supply us with energy for our daily life activities. Men, like all other animals, also need energy for the maintenance of the life processes. This energy comes from the metabolism of the food substances. Food substances such as carbs, fats, nutrients, minerals, vitamins are the sources which we obtain from different foods we intake. There must be some larger molecules, there are some smaller molecules. All the molecules are contributing towards the energy which cells acquire and perform their normal functioning. Digestive system performs ingestion, digestion, absorption, assimilation, and egestion. Ingestion is basically intake of food. Digestion is breakdown of food. Absorption means different nutrients which are generated from the food are absorbed inside the digestive system. Assimilation, transport of the nutrient towards the target organs or target cells. And egestion, waste material to be removed out of the body, is the process of egestion. So let's continue to the digestive system details.
Now, what is digestion basically? Digestion is the process of breakdown of various molecules by using mechanical and chemical ways. Digestion is the process in which food is broken down or converted into smaller molecules which are to be transported to the cells for various functioning. This process may occurs in two ways. Number one is the mechanical way and number two is the chemical ways. Mechanical process of digestion take place in the mouth region. It means the food enters into your mouth, your tongue, teeth, saliva from the salivary gland grind and chew that food, and it will be broken down into the smaller molecules and the bolus is formed. This process is basically mechanical because you have been using jaws and teeth and tongue for the grinding of the food. However, chemical process involves enzymes. That means the chemical breakdown is of larger molecules into smaller molecules with the help of enzymes. So the catabolic activity will release the energy and that energy will be transported to the different cells where they are required. Human digestive system, as I earlier mentioned, is a complicated and a delicate system. It is composed up of two components. Number one is the alimentary canal and number two is the digestive gland. Alimentary canal is basically composed of mouth, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, rectum, and anus. On the contrary, digestive glands include salivary glands, gastric glands, intestinal glands, liver, and pancreas. But important thing is that both of them work together to supply and meet the energy demand of the body. Now, alimentary canal is concerned with the process of ingestion, mean taking in the food, digestion, breaking that food into simpler molecules. Number third, absorption, absorbing the nutrients that have been broken. Egestion means removing of the waste product or the food that is not being digested in the digestive system. On the contrary, digestive glands are completely associated with the alimentary canal and they help in the process of digestion. Now, it is important to note that these glands are active glands that secrete enzymes for the chemical breakdown. So, it is basically the chemical mechanism of the digestion, chemical breakdown of the nutrients. And also note that each of these glands have a different pH of the enzymes to perform their function. For example, saliva in your mouth have pH 7 because it will not affect your mouth. It will keep the environment of the mouth neutral for all sort of elements. On the contrary, gastric glands in your stomach releases acidic environment. It creates acidic environment that can be harmful in the intestinal glands. They are creating environment alkaline in nature.
So, moving on, the very first external opening that leads into the oral cavity is the mouth, and it is the very first part of the alimentary canal where the mechanical process of digestion take place. It has three components: tongue, teeth, and salivary glands. Tongue, which contains various and sensitive sensors which can sense the soreness, sweetness, bitterness, and the saltness of the food substance you have been taking. Teeth are actively involved in breaking the food material you have taken it, no matter whether it's spaghettis, pastas, burgers, bread, grain, wheat, rice, beans, pulses, whatever you have been taking are grinded by the teeth and is broken down into smaller pieces. And then comes the salivary glands, which secrete amylase enzyme and which is actively involved in the digestion of carbohydrates. This means the very first thing which was digested from the mouth is the carbohydrates. Yes, it's a carbohydrate. So the very first digestion is of carbohydrates. I hope you clearly understand that. So here is a video to demonstrate you the very first checkpoint is mouth, which is turning the food into smaller pieces and with the help of the teeth, saliva, and salivary glands. So the next checkpoint is of esophagus. This is the second checkpoint of alimentary canal, and the process to which is carried forward in this is just the food is passing from mouth to the stomach region through the muscular lining of the esophagus. So basically, esophagus is a muscular tube. It is of around 25 centimeter long. It leads from the pharynx, that is a common opening between nasal cavity and the oral cavity. Food is pushed in towards the stomach, downwards towards the stomach for further digestion of other ingredients such as proteins, lipids, fats, and vitamin, minerals, etc. So the food which is passing by esophagus has clearly demonstrated that these are the muscle lining which contract and relax. There must be some longitudinal muscles, some circular muscles, and which pushes the food downward in the form of the bolus, and these muscles shorten when the passage of food is ahead. Here it is important to note or to understand the structure of esophagus. Esophagus is, as I mentioned, a muscular lining. It means the muscles of the esophagus contract and relax. It is basically just a tube, a hollow tube through which the food has been passing. So there are various layers. It must be thick to avoid any sort of damage, any sort of acid reflux, any sort of bacterial in penetration. So and there are various layers in it. The outermost layer is known as adventitia. Inner to that is the muscle layer, and inner to that is mucosa and submucosa layer. So mucosa and submucosa layers are secreting mucus to protect this esophagus lining from any harmful environment, any harmful acidic or acid reflux. So that is why it is very thick lining. So here we are at the third checkpoint, which is known as stomach. Stomach is basically a dilated part of the digestive system, roughly J-shaped, or and it act like a yes, grinder, and it is transversely placed on the left side, just beneath the diaphragm in the abdomen region, and it has two openings which are guarded by the valves. The one opening between esophagus and stomach is known as cardiac opening, which is guarded by the cardiac sphincter. The region of the stomach around the cardiac opening is the cardiac end. The opening of the stomach that enters into the small intestine duodenum region is known as pyloric opening, and it is guarded by pyloric sphincter. Pyloric sphincter always open when the acidic environment in the stomach has been raised. It will allow the movement of the food substances which has been digested to move into the small intestine region, because there is a high ratio of the high volume of the acidic acidic chyme. In the video you have been seeing, there are three other parts labeled. Number one is the liver, number two, gallbladder, number three is the pancreas. All these are the glands and contributing towards the small intestine digestion. All these parts, like pancreas, produces the enzyme that will help to break down the food. You might have heard about insulin and glycogen. There is a gallbladder which stores the bile and produced by the liver, and the liver itself produces the bile and break down the fats and remove the toxin materials inside the food. All these three openings are indirectly involved with the digestion of the intestinal tract, means all the nutrients are digested in the intestinal tract. In stomach portion, the protein digestion only take place. Let's have a closer look what is happening inside the stomach. So, digestion in stomach take place by releasing the gastric juice. Gastric juice is composed of four major components. Number one is muci, or you can say mucus. Number two is pepsin. Number three, hydrochloric acid. Number four, renin. All these make up gastric juice. Function of mucus is to protect the walls of the stomach from being digested because of the hydrochloric acid and pepsin. Pepsin is very powerful enzyme that can digest the walls of the stomach and damage the stomach. As the lining of the stomach is composed of circular and longitudinal muscles, the muscles can be digested if there is no lining. So the mucus is basically protecting the walls of the stomach against the acidic environment. Number two is the pepsin. Pepsin is basically released in inactive form, pepsinogen, because if it is released in active form, it can digest the walls of the stomach and badly create ulcer in the stomach. So that is why it is always released in inactive form. Whenever the food enters into the stomach, the process of digestion starts in the stomach, and the hydrochloric acid in the gastric juice will activate this pepsinogen into pepsin, and the pepsin will perform its function, means it will digest the proteins to polypeptides, peptides, and amino acids. Third thing, which is mentioned in the slide, you can see digest the proteins to polypeptides, peptides, and amino acids. And the very important thing, renin is also mentioned here. Renin is basically a protein in the infants that will digest the milk protein. Renin is an enzyme. It is secreted only in babies, and it will digest the protein, milk proteins. By the churning action of the stomach wall, the food gets mixed into the soupy mixture known as chyme, and this chyme reaches to the certain degree of acidity will cause the pyloric sphincter open, and it will relax, and the food passes into the next portion of the small intestine that is known as duodenum. Let's move on to our next category, that is the next checkpoint, small intestine. So here we are at our next checkpoint, that is the small intestine. Small intestine is divided into three major portions. Number one is jejunum, and ileum. Duodenum is about 20 to 25 centimeter long tube. Jejunum is 2.5 meter long, and ileum is about 4 meter long tube. All are composing the small intestine tube. Basically, the food which has been churned and have the acidic environment will enter into the small intestine through the pyloric sphincter, and this small intestine contain alkaline environment in it, regardless what stomach have in it. So, starch, proteins, fats are enzymatically broken down in the small intestine. When food enters the duodenum, the chyme stimulates three type of secretion. Number one is the gallbladder will release bile. The pancreas secrete pancreatic juice. The intestinal glands will secrete intestinal juice. Here it is important that liver is indirectly taking part in the part of digestion, and bile is, which is a greenish yellow liquid, is manufactured inside the liver. So bile is stored in the gallbladder, which is a pouch-like structure just beneath the liver, and it will release as soon as the food enters into the duodenum.
The function of bile is to emulsify fats, means to break down the fats into small droplets, and the process is called emulsification, and provides relatively large surface area for the lipid absorption and by the action of the lipase enzymes. You already know that the enzymes are very specific. So lipid enzyme will be lipase, protein enzyme will be pepsin, carbohydrate enzymes will be amylase. So another thing which is released to the pancreatic juice is from the pancreas, and the secretion of pancreas will cause the digestion of will contain amylase, lipase, trypsinogen. Pancreatic amylase is the starch digesting enzyme. It converts polysaccharides to maltose and even to glucose. Pancreatic lipase converts the neutral fats into glycerol and fatty acids, which are also the smaller molecules. Trypsin will convert the proteins into polypeptide. All these things are happening inside the duodenum region. The last thing which we are going to start is the digestion in jejunum and ileum. Before going to jejunum and ileum, just give a closer look to the liver, which is containing gallbladder. A structured greenish liquid have been released by the liver. It is stored in the gallbladder, and whenever the food enters into the duodenum, the bile will be released, and pancreas will also release the pancreatic juice into the small intestine duodenum region, and the process of digestion of all sort of nutrients will take place. That is why it is known as that in. Yes, I am enzyme and I will eat up everything in just few seconds. Enzymes are so much capable molecules that can digest the substances in just seconds. Without enzyme, the process will be delayed. It will take even years. So the enzymes are basically playing very active role in the process of digestion. In the lining of the jejunum and ileum, the several enzymes are also released, like arepsin, which will convert peptides into amino acids, and it also excrete enterokinase, which activate pancreatic trypsinogen into active form trypsin. Lactase will also be converted into lactose to glucose, and maltase will be converted to maltose or glucose. In ileum, digestion process is basically completed. So means all sort of nutrients, whether proteins, carbohydrates, fats, lipids, everything is digested inside the small intestine in duodenum, jejunum, and ileum region. What are the things that are very important in playing active role in absorption of these nutrients? How these are absorbed and transported to the cell? Let's discuss that thing. So here we are with a very important thing. You must be curious that nutrients have been broken down, then how they are transported to the different cells and different parts of the body. Yes, it's very important. Without the villi, the small intestine will not be able to perform the digestion. The internal lining of the small intestine is completely modified to make tiny finger-like projections called villi, and each villus contains numbers of blood capillaries and the lymph vessels called lacteal in it. The villi will increase the surface area for absorption, means all the nutrients which has been broken down will be absorbed into the villi, and villi will be transporting those nutrients to the target sites. Let's discuss the structure of villi in detail, how it is performing its function, and how it is very important part of the small intestine. That incomplete digestion will be because of the damaged villi, or the part which is not performing proper function will definitely contain some malfunctioning in villi. So here is the structure of the villi. Basically, you can see a innermost green portion which is containing the blood. That is basically a lacteal region, and it is absorbing directly the small fatty acid chains into fatty acids and the glycerol into it. And other one are the veins and the arteries, which are also enriched with the blood, and they are absorbing all other nutrients such as amino acids, polysaccharides, and other nutrients. Simple sugars and amino acid will be passed through the walls of the villi into the blood capillaries directly. Mineral salts, vitamins will also pass into the blood capillaries of villi. Absorption will be the combination of diffusion and active transport, because the energy is not required here. Glycerol and fatty acids are absorbed by the lacteal and ultimately will be poured into the blood. The absorbed food in the blood capillaries of the villi will pass into the bloodstream. They are then carried carried away by the capillaries, which join up to form veins, and these veins will unite to form one larger vein called hepatic portal vein in the liver region. This vein will carry the blood from the intestine to the liver, which may store or alter the products generated. For example, if excessive glucose is produced, it will be converted into glycogen and it will stored in the liver. Whenever the body is having the requirement for the glucose, that glycogen will be immediately converted back into glucose and the body will use that glucose. Similarly, the toxins have been removed from the liver and they are broken down. The process of assimilation is also very important because the product of digestion are carried around the body through the blood. These are absorbed by the blood body cells and use the glucose, amino acid, fats, and the process is basically known as assimilation, means utilization, means the energy we have generated in the form of the nutrients is now being consumed in the cells and is approached to the target sites. Let's move on to the last section of the large intestine and discuss what is digestion. So, from the small intestine, food have been broken down into smaller portions and it is absorbed into the different forms like maltose, glucose, fatty acids, glycerols, amino acids. All forms are broken down. Now, the food will be moving towards the large intestine. Large intestine is the portion of the digestive system which absorb maximum salts and water from the food, so that there must not be enough dietary fibers and enough water replacing the body, getting out of the body, so leaving a soft mass which is known as stool. The large intestine is a tube leading from the small intestine to the anus. It is around about 1.5 meters in length and is larger than the small intestine in diameter. It consists of three regions: cecum, colon, and rectum. Cecum is the first blind part of the large intestine, and we often refer appendix is attached to it, which is 10 centimeter long. And from colon, water, salts, and some vitamins are also absorbed into the blood. Why it is a blind portion? Because its function is not clearly understood. Last portion of the large intestine is the rectum, which temporarily stores the feces, and defecation will occur at the time when the muscles are contracting and allowing the body to get rid of the waste material. So, let's have a brief description about the liver, because it is the largest gland. It contains the reddish, it is of dark reddish color, and it lies immediately below the diaphragm on the right side of the body. And as it is secreting bile, which is involved in the emulsification, there are many numerous roles of the liver. Some of them are liver manufacture bile. Also excessive quantity of glucose is stored in the liver. It will convert glycerols, amino acids, ammonia is converted into urea. Majority of plasma proteins are also synthesized in it. It also destroys the red blood cells after the particular time and store the fat soluble vitamins. I hope all the information I provided you help you increase your knowledge and made you clear your concepts about the digestion. Do comment in the video what would you like to see in future. If still you are having any sort of discussion, you will be more than welcome to discuss in the comment section. We are offering the personal consultation about the different questions you will be asking. So do subscribe Science Insight for more videos in the future.